Hello and welcome to GameSack. Today with me I've got Coury from My Life in Gaming, and he had a good idea of what we could do for this episode, and that's basically we give each other a game and that we've never played before, and we take a look at it and see how we like it.
You know, it's pretty hard to find some games that you had never played before because you've played so many on this show, it's hard to find something that you haven't.
That's right. Anyway, you've got the first game, and for you, I've decided that you will be playing Superman for the 16-bit Sega Genesis.
Sounds good. Superman on the Sega Genesis marks Sunsoft's return to the superhero genre after the incredible run they had with Batman. This game is rarely ever mentioned, and I don't think I've ever seen it in action until playing it for this review. Like the Batman games, Superman is a side-scrolling action game that has him facing off with obscure and familiar faces from throughout his rogues gallery, circa 1992, across 5 levels. He'll be rescuing kids from abandoned buildings, exploring subway stations, and smashing robots and oil tankers before heading to space to rescue Lois Lane from Brainiac. Each level is split out into a variety of gameplay styles. First, you've got the on-foot levels that have you beating down enemies with your fists. Pressing A throws out a powerful sonic punch, but Superman will need to regain his stamina before he can do it again. Although he cannot fly in these kinds of stages, if you time your jumps right, you can punch through the enemies from below, or damage them as you descend on top of them. You can also run by double tapping left or right, but that'll get you into trouble real quick. On occasion, you'll pick up a Superman symbol icon that'll give you a spin move to drill through the floor. There's also some straight-up shooter levels that have Superman taken to the skies and flying full speed ahead with both of his fists out, shooting heat vision beams from his eyes. Finally, there's some auto-scrolling floating levels that mash up these two styles. Superman can fly freely while shooting ultra-weak heat beams from his eyes or wailing on enemies with his fists. So Superman is at its best when it transitions back and forth between these styles within a level. But Superman's wide array of superpowers and general lack of weaknesses has been a challenge for just about every game featuring him in the titular role.
Did you just say tits?
Well, the Sunsoft's approach was to pretty much ignore all that entirely and make him a complete joke. Seriously, this game is balls hard and will make you beg for forgiveness right from the get-go. Soup's defenses are paper thin, and punching enemies requires frame-accurate timing, lest they so much as breathe on his enormous hitbox. Listen, I get making a challenging game, but it ain't even fun when you have to inch forward through a level to make sure that only 1 or 2 enemies come at you at a time. Most of the levels are extremely long and have 0 checkpoints within, so be prepared to have your patience tested right from the moment you hit start. A lack of difficulty selection will probably discourage most of those interested in checking this out, but I guess the European version does have one, so there is that. If worst comes to worst, you can always use a level skip cheat, or do what I did, abuse the Mega EverDrive save state function with reckless abandon. Compared to Sunsoft's Batman games, Superman is a much brighter game. Don't expect any impressive graphical effects or artwork though. Superman himself looks nice and animates well, although he's sort of small, I guess. Still, it delivers where it counts the most. The parallax scrolling on the flying levels is nice and fast. Being a Sunsoft game, naturally you're wondering how the music is. The title screen theme is appropriately soaring, befitting of a hero like Superman. From there, each level continues to offer something better until we get what I consider to be an all-timer Genesis tune on level 4. Talk about a saving grace. I was so close to throwing in the towel here, but that music helped me see it through to the end. It's just too bad that most players won't even make it there without having to cheat to some degree. So I was hoping for so much more after Batman, but alas, Superman can be lumped in with nearly every other game featuring him in the title role. Play it for the music, or rather, just listen to it on YouTube or something and save yourself the stress. So Superman was interesting.
I like it.
What I thought would be fun to give you is a game that always gets comments in our videos about what game is this when I showed one shot of it. And that game is Gamera 2000, released in Japan on the PlayStation 1.
Okay, I haven't even heard of that, but I like Godzilla stuff, so let's see how it is. Alright, this is Gamera 2000 from Surveyor Corp on the original PlayStation, released only in Japan in 1997. Way back when I was a stupid little kid, I loved the Godzilla universe, and Gamera the giant flying turtle was always my favorite. I mean, just look at this, he is so badass. In fact, I persuaded my mom into letting me get a pet turtle, and I named that turtle Gamera. Man, I love that damn turtle. Hey, focus on the turtle, not me. Anyway, how about the game here, which is clearly based on my turtle?
Let's check it out.
Well, wouldn't you know it, it's Panzer Dragoon. You fly a ship which can shoot rapid shots. These shots can also deflect many enemy projectiles. You're not alone though, as Gamera is up there flying around with you. You can also lock on to several targets at once, and when you let go, Gamera will breathe fire on them, and they can't escape this. Another thing that's just like Panzer Dragoon is your radar in the upper right corner showing where the enemies are. You can snap around to one of 4 different directions with the shoulder buttons just like, you guessed it, Panzer Dragoon. Moreover, if you hold the circle button, this builds up Gamera's meter on the right side of the screen and he starts spinning and building up power. During this you can still fire with the X button, but you can't lock on. Once he's full, you can release the button and Gamera will dart around the screen, attacking enemies. This is excellent for most of the boss encounters. Again, you can't lock on to anything while he's doing this because, well, he's busy. Once he's done, he'll need to recharge for a bit before you can do this again, but fortunately you can use your lock-on during this period. Sometimes you'll be on your Star Wars speeder and Gamera won't be there. You still have lock-on fire that you can use, which looks even more like Panzer Dragoon's attack. Also, doesn't this stage look just like this one from Panzer Dragoon 2? Well, I sure think it does. If you die, you've got to restart the entire stage as there are no checkpoints and no way to get any of your life back during a stage. Every couple of stages you get some full motion video scenes.
Oh, what's that?
These look really good compression-wise, but really campy special effects-wise. But that is perfectly welcome in something like this. The game defaults to English with Japanese subtitles, but you can change this to Japanese if you want.
They have Gauss DNA. We captured Gauss DNA. Jack, you and Dr. Mukanoki, bring back Gauss DNA.
I love it.
You can call me Jack, Dr. Mukanoki.
Call me Lisa. Nice to meet you, Jack.
The pleasure's all mine.
Damn straight it is, girl. Before you start the stage, you have a cursor that lets you interact with a few things in your environment. I think this is just here for fun and not truly necessary. I mean, it is a good way to take a break between the stages.
Jack, be careful.
Ah, looks like someone's catching some feelings. When you're ready, just select Start Game. Gameplay-wise, it's all super fun, but the enemy placement wasn't done quite as well as the Panzer Dragoon games. Enemies constantly surround you, and most of them will be shooting at you, so it can be easy to get overwhelmed in the chaos. Still, you can try as many times as you need to, and it'll even save if you want to come back to the game another time and pick up from there. The game has 8 stages, so it might not feel too lengthy, but it's definitely worth the trip. Graphically, the game is good, pretty average for the PlayStation, but still pleasant. The characters all look as they should, but nothing overly stands out visually among the rest of the PlayStation library. Still, I really like how the battle with this not-quite Rodan guy over Alcatraz looks. One thing that does kind of bug me is that the entire game runs in interlaced mode for no reason at all. It doesn't run in a higher resolution or look any better because of it. I wonder what their reasoning was for doing this. The music is generally excellent and fast-paced. It really makes the game feel more energetic and certainly fun. Unfortunately, it's not Redbook audio, but there is a sound test. Sadly, it did not get released outside of Japan, despite there being some interest from certain publishers. As a result, it's not too well known. Hell, I didn't even know about it until Coury suggested it. I'm glad he did, because I really enjoy this for what it is. Okay, I was disappointed that there was no Godzilla, but all right. So the next game I have for you it's a weird one, and it was sent to me by somebody who really wanted it to be on the show, and he's really begged me to play it for some time. And you know who you are when you see this title. But I'm gonna have Coury play it. You know, even though I did try it out, you've never played it, and it's a strange one. It's called Tale of the Sun for the PlayStation 1. Ooh, that rhymed.
It does rhyme. And I've heard of this, but I've never seen a screenshot of it. So let's go. Tale of the Sun was released in 1997 for the Sony PlayStation. And it might just be the most enigmatic game that I have ever played in my entire life. Simultaneously a caveman simulator, roguelike, town builder, and open world exploratory thing. Here's a game that defies explanation at every turn. If you're familiar with the Japanese developer ArtDink, you'll know that weird little games like this were more or less their thing during the PS1 generation. Chances are, Tale of the Sun, or as it's called on the title screen, Tale of the Sun Wild, Pure, Simple Life, will test you right from the get-go and will likely elicit a visceral response. After naming your save file and choosing your character, you're unceremoniously dropped into the world without a single bit of guidance. Literally zero. There's a bunch of stuff on the ground, and if you go over to them, you can press the triangle button to lift them up and, I guess, eat them? What is going on? Do these things do anything? There's so many that it'll take forever to eat all of them. Where should I even go? Why is my Neanderthal constantly falling asleep? Wow, I absolutely hate this. In an attempt to make sense of the nonsensical, I headed to the internet to try and find an explanation that would help me understand. While there were several resources about this game, most of it was about as cryptic as the game itself. However, I was able to glean just enough relevant information to point me in the right direction. At least, I think I did. So I guess I needed to explore the world, eat everything that I can, which powers up different aspects of my Paleolithic avatar, legs to run faster, arms to raise strength, and so on. Eventually, you'll run into animals that you can throw rocks at or beat with your fists. Killing them yields a hunk of meat that you can either eat to boost all of your attributes or bring back to your village to feed your clan, which results in breeding and a greater supply of characters to play as, aka lives. These Cro-Magnons will die in a variety of ways, being gored by animals, drowning, or even simply dying of old age as you try to achieve your ultimate goal. Hunt down some woolly mammoths, kill them so you can build a tower from their tusks tall enough to reach the tails of the sun. As you journey across the land, killing and eating, your clan will evolve in various ways. Outside of becoming stronger and learning to use weapons to hunt, I'm not sure what anything else does. It doesn't even tell you. And that, what started as an annoyance began to intrigue me. I wanted to keep playing to see what kind of weird thing would happen next that might just clue me in on understanding the game just a little bit more. I've put several hours into the game, and I still don't know for sure what that little flame icon spinning around in space in the upper right-hand corner means. I think it's how much life a character has before they die of old age. But I can't tell you for sure. Tale of the Sun will make you feel like you're on drugs. It's certainly not an attractive game. It's mundane even. But it has a disconcerting vibe that sort of draws you in. It starts with the whacked out eyes and mouths of the different cavemen and women. Then comes the acid trip inspired soundtrack that'll make your stomach feel like it's twisting in the knots as it fades in and out of existence. Then, as different celestial bodies, shapes, and objects float diagonally through the night sky, you'll begin to question the reality surrounding you, and not only wonder how this game was even made, but also how it was localized and published by Sony Computer Entertainment themselves. My knee-jerk reaction of hate began to build into pure fascination. What was going on? What did these things do? How much food could I eat? How far could I go? Why did my Neanderthal fall asleep so often? It didn't stop there. I wanted to build that tower. I needed to reach the sun. And I guess that's what kind of made me turn a corner on Tale of the Sun. That it didn't make any sense made me want to play it more, and it wormed its way into my psyche. It's nearly impossible to articulate why I even like it, although one day I hope that I can explain it. I've never played a game that felt like this before, and I doubt I ever will again. I found it to be a journey worth going on, and if you simply embrace the quirks, oddities, and mystery, you might find it to be worthwhile too. Well, Tale of the Sun was something.
Yes, it is.
And now I'm going to give you a game that I've never played myself.
Oh, yeah?
And that is Shadow of Rome for the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, okay. I've heard of it. I've heard good things about it. Let's see if it lives up. Okay, let's check out Shadow of Rome on the PlayStation 2, released in 2005 from Capcom. Normally, I don't care too much for games like these. You know, big AAA story-driven stuff that you play through once and never again. There are of course many exceptions that I do enjoy, like Uncharted, Alan Wake, Shenmue, and etc. So let's see what this one has to offer. The game starts out with full motion videos explaining how great Rome is and all that stuff. Then Julius Caesar gets assassinated, uttering the only Latin line spoken in the game.
Et tu, Brute.
That's right, straight from the Shakespeare play. Everyone else speaks English because why wouldn't they?
And you too, Brutus.
The game is thematically influenced by the movie The Gladiator, which came out 5 years prior, but it has its own unique story. You start out in the Roman Colosseum as a lowly gladiator named Asparagus or something, and this is where you learn your fighting moves. Naturally, the combat is a bit over-designed for its own good, but it's serviceable. You can lock onto enemies with the R1 button, and you also have camera control with the right analog stick. You can carry a weapon or item in each hand, but certain items can only be carried by certain hands. Of course, it goes completely without saying that you have a button for your left-hand attack and another for your right hand. That's right, I went ahead and said it anyway. I mean, what are you going to do about it? Some weapons take up both hands, but you only need to press one of the buttons. The weapons here have life bars and will eventually break, just like Breath of the Wild. I guess maybe you could say that this game was ahead of its time. After this, you find out that you're a Roman centurion. No, you didn't get promoted. Instead, they used a super clever device called nonlinear storytelling. Now, get this, we're in the past. It's still after Caesar has been assassinated though. You have a map and it shows you where you are and often where your goal is with a red circle, but not always. If you look really close, it shows you which direction you're facing in, which can be helpful. I do wish that detail was a little more clear. Before too long, the game switches to a different character who is the nephew of Julius Caesar, named Octagon or Otacon, I don't know. Turns out that Asparagus' father has been blamed for assassinating Uncle Julius. But you don't believe it for a second. I mean, has this senator not seen the play? He should definitely know better. You're only a teenager and you don't really have any fighting skills. Instead, this part of the game relies on stealth. You can walk to look casual and reduce noise, you can crawl and even hide inside large pots. It was at this point right here that the game became familiar to me. I had definitely seen it before. I searched the exciting GameSack website and yep, look at that, it's appeared on the show before, in the PlayStation 2 episode no less. Dave was the one who played and wrote about it, and I edited the segment. Not sure why I remember hiding in the pot so well. Anyway, I hadn't played it myself until now. I still have all of Dave's gameplay footage backed up. My capture certainly looks better than his. It's not his fault, mind you, it's just how far the retro scene has come since then. Back then we used frame meisters, which really darkened the video to keep the noise level down and only scaled it to 720p. Nowadays I use the RetroTink 4K with a profile dialed into my specific console, scaling to 4K. Gotta tell you, I do not miss the frame meister. Anyway, so what's going on? Oh yeah, I'm playing Shadow of Rome for the first time. So during these stealth modes, you need to wander around town to different places, talk to different people, take note of what's going on around town, stuff like that. Then you can use this information in conversation so that you can gain access to places and things. Also, you can save a lot more often during the stealth portion of the game, whereas you can really only save after the stage is complete in action mode. However, in action mode, if you die, you'll respawn not too far back, fortunately. The game is pretty good all around, but it can sometimes be kind of annoying. The combat isn't particularly refined, and you need to wait for your character's animations to complete before you regain control. Naturally, that means you're quite vulnerable a lot of the time. I kept fighting this boss over and over, and I was getting kind of bored with him. Then I just tried throwing weapons at him instead. That definitely did the trick. That's right, the sword is going right in your face! The stealth mode is a little bit more annoying, as I generally don't like stealth in my video games, especially when you need to walk instead of run to avoid suspicion. It takes forever. But I do like sneaking up and strangling guards to death. I mean, how can that not be fun? When they get alerted to your presence, you can run and sometimes hide from them, but you can't always get away with it because this part of the game just isn't made as well as something like Metal Gear. The enemies here are definitely smarter, which is bad news for you as a game player. The game, of course, catches up to itself after a couple of hours. I beat my opponents, but apparently that's not good enough for the game. I guess it wants me to beat them in a certain way. Come on, are you not entertained? It's like the tutorial never ends. The graphics are pretty nice, but look best on a CRT. It runs in interlaced mode only and can't be forced properly into 480p. The PlayStation 2 hasn't really aged well visually because of its love for interlacing. This game also lacks a lot of color because, well, it was made back when bold colors in video games were out of style. The sound and music are both perfectly fine. There's nothing special about either here, but also nothing bad. At the end of the day, I'm not fully sold on this one, but I also certainly do not hate it. There's plenty of fun to be had here. I appreciate what it's trying to do, and they definitely had some good ideas. It does some things decently, but nothing extremely well. As such, I can't see myself ever really turning this on again, though I certainly don't regret the hours that I did spend with it. Alright, enough of this Rome nonsense. Now, a game that I was surprised that you have never played before is Dungeon Explorer on the Sega CD. Now, you may have played it briefly on the TurboGrafx, but it's a completely different game. And it's similar, but it's not the same game, so...
Yeah, I mean, I've only tooled around with it a little bit on the TurboGrafx, and I thought it was pretty cool there, but, you know, you said that this one's different than what I would expect.
I did say that, so let's see what Coury thinks about it.
Dungeon Explorer on the Sega CD is an overhead gauntlet-like where you, obviously, explore dungeons. So, the original Dungeon Explorer was developed by Hudson Soft and released in 1989 on the TurboGrafx 16 and PC Engine, with a sequel showing up on the TurboGrafx CD-ROM in 1993. While much of that team seemed to have gone on to work on the spin-off Crystal Beans from Dungeon Explorer on the Super Famicom, Hudson also decided to reboot the whole thing with the help of Westone, you know, of Wonder Boy fame, on the Sega CD. Outside of the basic premise and general gameplay mechanics, this is a totally different game with seemingly no ties to the previous entries. The stories aren't even remotely similar either. You start off by choosing a character from a pool of 5 different classes: Knight, Monk, Beast, Ninja, and Mage. The number of classes are cut down from the 8 in the Turbo version, but I don't think it matters all that much since it seems like several of the classes were just combined. Of course, each class has different stats, and also a special attack that is triggered with the B button. Holding down the C button will send an endless barrage of normal attacks. Pressing A will open up your inventory and let you use items and keep track of your stats. The action doesn't pause when you do this, so make sure you're somewhere safe. You start off in a town, more or less, with a store to buy equipment upgrades, a bar that lets you pick a different character, and a tent that's used for saving your game. Each save slot lets you have multiple characters, which can be used if you want to bring up to 3 other players with you. This is a heck of a lot more convenient than dealing with the passwords in the TG16 version. However, there's not a single NPC to talk to in the Sega CD version, which makes the whole world feel pretty empty. By contrast, the Turbo version had multiple towns and villages with plenty of people to talk to that build upon the story. The hub area has several different paths that lead to different dungeons for you to explore. You'll quickly get a feel for which one you should take on first because you'll be swarmed and killed by powerful enemies if you choose poorly. After working your way to a dungeon's entrance, the objective is simple. You find your way to the boss and kill it. Enemies spew forth from portals endlessly that you'll have to blow up and search each level for keys and switches that'll help you get to the boss. Destroying a portal leaves a treasure chest in its wake, and its contents are completely random. Although they'll mostly leave you gold, you might also receive health restoration items or temporary equipment boosts and upgrades. These items all disappear from your inventory when you leave the dungeon. If you're unlucky, then the chest might contain a trap that hits you with a temporary status debuff at exactly the wrong time. The right side of the screen is dominated with several vital stats. Food is essentially your endurance, which starts off at 1,000 and begins to decrease as soon as you leave town. Life is your health, with the orange number stat signifying your possible max health. E is your total experience, with the N number telling you how much experience you have to go before you level up. Each enemy accounts for 1 experience point. Don't get excited though, because when you level up, your max health increases and that is it. Other stats can only be increased by buying various new equipment in town, so it really doesn't behoove you to grind up levels. They will come naturally as you gather gold to buy new equipment. Unfortunately, that core gameplay loop eventually makes things a chore over the long term, because the equipment prices are high, while gold yielded from each chest isn't nearly close to where it should be. This balance would probably be fine if you got some stat upgrades from each level, but instead you'll find yourself just killing enemies in the first couple of floors of a dungeon to grind up for money to buy equipment. Once you buy that, then you can just coast through the rest of the dungeon. It's not unlike what you'd experience in most RPGs of the era, like Dragon Quest, but those usually have plot motivations that push you forward. You know, in retrospect, I wonder if the whole grind is mitigated if you play in multiplayer. In any case, I am embarrassed to admit that I ended up using a hack that gives you more gold with each pickup just so I could show you more of the game in this review. Each dungeon has its own theme and graphics to accompany it. It's actually a nice looking game in general, and I even found the Sega CD version to be significantly upgraded visually over the TurboGrafx version, specifically due to the increased size of character sprites. However, this doesn't come without compromise. The game runs at 30 frames per second, but it's not too much of a hindrance because it's not exactly a fast-moving game. And the lower frame rate is only really apparent when the screen is scrolling. But some of the special moves bring the frame rate way down though. This really makes the game chug. I wonder if it goes even lower if you're playing multiplayer. You know, I truly love the sound of CD game music from this era, and the Red Book CD audio here is a real pleasure. In fact, both versions of Dungeon Explorer have truly exceptional soundtracks for their hardware. Sure, the Turbo version has a lot more variety to it, but if I was put on the spot, I don't think I could place one over the other because they're both just so good. The voices, though, leave a bit to be desired. Amid all the hootin' and hollerin', This game seems to be especially annoyed when I load my save file. What was that? Can you say that again? What the heck, Dungeon Explorer? In a face-off, I think that I'd rather play the Sega CD version of Dungeon Explorer if I had both sitting in front of me. But it would be close. I prefer the world and story of the Turbo version, but I like the level progression and gameplay of the Sega CD version more. I think it would probably be more clean-cut if it wasn't just so grindy. I should have played this game way sooner than I did, and if I had, I bet it would have been one of my favorite Sega CD games today. So yeah, that was surprisingly different from the TurboGrafx CD version. Next, I have something that's a bit of a guilty pleasure for me that I'm excited for you to try out. And that is Pressure Washer Simulator, a game that I would akin to being like mowing the lawn, but without any tangible benefit.
Dude, do you hate me? What the hell's wrong with you?
You might be surprised.
Okay, let's give it a shot. This is Power Wash Simulator from Future Lab and Square Enix for the PC, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, Switch, PS4, PS5, and MetaQuest 2 Pro and 3. This is the PlayStation 4 version, but there's a free PS5 upgrade. However, it's not automatic, so you'll have to search for it in the store and then download it. So yeah, this is the PlayStation 5 version, but it's barely any different than the PS4 version as the graphics are pretty simple. You start out scrolling through a bunch of legalese because this is where gaming is at these days. Your goal is to power wash things that are dirty. What is it with all the job simulator games these days? I mean, we have Power Wash Simulator, Farm Simulator, Lawn Mowing Simulator, and of course, Job Simulator. Oh yeah, and Construction Simulator, Truck and Logistics Simulator, and we can't forget Goat Simulator. People pay money to work on their game consoles and not earn any real money? This is basically its own genre now. What the hell is wrong with society? Anyway, you have different nozzles and you need to clean every little speck of dirt which is all over the place. You get different jobs and there is just so much dirt everywhere. Like what the hell? Are these people living underneath an active volcano? All the other houses in the same neighborhood are perfectly fine. What the hell is wrong with these people? Or how about this skate park? Just look at this. Is this some sort of special needs skate park built only for kids with uncontrollable bowels? And this public restroom makes those from Silent Hill 2 look clean. Like, how did this even happen? Oh, faux wood seats. How 90s. You use enough water to cause a small drought, but there's no hose attached anywhere. It's all coming from you. The controls are typical first-person style fare, and they work okay. It is very difficult to write things well with an inverted up and down, which I prefer with these kind of controls. You can cycle through nozzles with the shoulder buttons. Certain nozzles are wider and spray a wider area, but weaker, and some dirt requires more pressure. You can press right on the D-pad to see all the areas which you still need to spray or even spray again. You spray with the R trigger, but you can just press left on the D-pad to turn the water on and off if you don't feel like holding the button down. You can also move and adjust certain items in each stage to help you reach other areas. And you'll need to because everything is covered with dirt, grime, moss, volcanic ash, you name it. Yeah, that's right, you even need to get underneath things because somehow just as much dirt collects there. How? Remember, don't miss a speck or you can't complete the stage. You can buy new nozzles, sprayers, and the like with the money that you earn from the jobs you do. They can help a little bit because the water pressure increases, but the stages you face after will have even more grime that needs higher pressure, so it ends up feeling the same. Each stage can take anywhere from an hour to several hours to finish. Yeah, it's that insane. I'm not sure who the hell this game is for, but I don't think it's for me. I mean, I like grinding in RPGs, and in other games I like certain repetitive tasks, but here it's just too much. It's literally overwhelming and incredibly slow-paced. The only sound that you ever hear is the water. It's absolutely mind-numbing. Hell, scrolling through the legalese may be the best part of the game. Okay, let's try putting on some of my own music. Alright, now, let's get this done. After a while of doing it like this, something weird happened. The hatred I had for my life, and especially Coury for suggesting this game, started to diminish. I was having fun? No. But I will say that the only way to play this game is while listening to your own music. With that, it can actually be kind of relaxing. I just wish it weren't so slow. Like I said, it can be overwhelming and it takes forever to complete a job. I wouldn't be surprised if the final stage is an entire city. Fortunately, not all jobs are super humongous. Sometimes you'll have a small job, like washing off a golf cart or a motorcycle. Other times you might be sent to Mars to wash off the rover so it can explore more. That's right, things can even get dirty on Mars. Notice the footprints. I guess the aliens here go barefoot. After you complete any job, you get kind of a time-lapse sequence which shows your work, which is kind of cool. The console versions are obviously afterthoughts, as the menu is clearly designed for a computer mouse input. Reminds me of how awkward Flight Simulator is on Xbox consoles. That one definitely takes the cake though. Graphically, like I said, it's really simple. In fact, it looks like every other low-budget game out there that uses Unity. The physics of the water certainly aren't impressive given the console. The PS5 version will give you a bit of shininess here and there compared to the PS4 version, but that's really the only difference I found that's even slightly noticeable. Once again, the sound is horrid and unlistenable after a few minutes. They really could have used a bunch of quirky indie music or something. Licensing would be super cheap, as small acts would love to have their tunes featured in a video game. I mean, come on! There are a few minor ambient sound effects here and there, depending on the stage you're in, and those sound effects are sometimes even in discrete surround sound, which surprised me. But they won't do much to alleviate any of the boredom you may or may not be experiencing. So my overall assessment of this game is that, while it can be relaxing, it's also anxiety-inducing as you need to spray everything, even underneath. And having to do a lot of it with the narrowest of streams while being super close to your target is no fun at all. You can tell I wasn't really having any fun with this game because I only played it for 38 hours? Yeah, I actually really do love this game. But it's just that I hate it so much, you know? Well, let's just say it's complicated. I don't know, maybe it's that completion ding that's just so satisfying. And there you go, several games we haven't played before, but hey, we've played them now, and that was a pretty good idea.
It was a lot of fun. I would definitely like to do this again in the future. Maybe you should put the idea out to other people.
Yeah. What did you guys think of this episode? Did you like it? Let us know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack.
And check out My Life in Gaming.
Whoa. You're watching GameSack now. You check that out on your own time, man.
Okay. Joe's gotta have some good stuff in here. Ooh. This is look at all this is all his best stuff. Wait a minute. Do you care to explain this?
Oh, yes, Brittany's Dance Beat is one of the sickest games ever.
Did you take this?
What are you talking about? No.
6 years ago, I was attacked, and someone took this from me. Remember?
was you, wasn't it? I know it was you! I know it! Stupid gangster!
Why, hello!
Try? What are you doing here?
Well, I'm looking for some evidence of dithering since GameSack likes the Sega Genesis, you know.
You see Joe come through here?
Oh, I sure have. He ran that way.
Thank you.
It's me, Joe, from GameSack, in disguise.
It was you, wasn't it? I know it was you!
I feel like I hit you, but I didn't really.
I know!
Oh, I didn't connect.
I know!
I know it!
I made a stupid face because I feel like I hit you too hard.
I know it!
Oh, I did it again. I made the stupid face.
Oh,
I know it was you!
I didn't hit you.
just in the nose.
Just in the nose.
Okay, let's just go straight.
Yeah, let's just go.